And welcome back. It's Tech Talk on Monday. Today we're live January 16th, 2023. And we're going to take a look at some spreadsheet stuff in Google Sheets and how you can protect those files and protect cells or different, parts of the sheet basically, so that people can't start editing it. So you can share a file, you can even give that file editing access to other people, but lock down certain parts of that sheet so that it can't be messed with. And a main part of that, of course, is going to be things like formulas and data validation and such, so that those don't get broken when people are trying to work with the data you've given them. So let's take a look at what that's going to look like on a spreadsheet here. I'm going to grab one from a previous lesson where we got into a whole bunch of different chart creation and validation type stuff. I'm just going to sort of go through that part real quick. So let's take a look here. I've grabbed the file that was provided back on our Tech Talk page here back in August when we talked about drop-down lists and little pie charts and a whole bunch of different charting type features there. And then here I can make a copy of the sheet to get my own version. So I've done that now. I'm going to ignore these first two pieces of instruction here that come from that original lesson. I'm going to jump right into setting up some data validation here. So I'm going to go to the validation option because I want to create a drop-down list. And I want to use basically this column, but I don't need full name, so I'm going to start at A2. Say OK. And it's a drop-down list. I don't need to mess around with anything else. And we'll just say OK. Oh, did I? OK. They've definitely changed this quite a bit, haven't they? Drop down from a range. That's what I wanted to do. OK, this is going to be G2. They have dramatically changed what this looks like, but that's OK. G2, done. From a range, click. Same thing I just did. Bam. A2. Oh, good thing we did this because it's different from when we looked at it last time. There we go. So it's loaded everything up there for me. And I can go ahead and say done. And as far as this stuff's concerned, I'm going to remove that rule. That's a nonsense rule that I didn't mean to create. There we go. So that's given me a little drop-down list of all the people's names. Now what I want to do is create a Vlookup formula. And this is so I can pull the marks for each of these kids based on who I've chosen here. So whoever's name is in G2, I want to pull a table from column A to column E. Let's take the whole thing because I don't want to have to worry about how many kids do I have in this particular list. And for test one, I'm going to be pulling the second column, and I'll say false because it is not necessarily alphabetical. It is in this case, but I never want to bank on that. So I'll click good. And if I choose Benjamin Grimm, I should get a 68. Perfect. Now I can't just drag this across with a VLOOKUP formula because what I'm trying to change is this value right here, which is the index, meaning in this case, the second column in this group of data that I'm pulling over here. So what I have to do instead is grab that and say copy, go to the next cell, paste it in there, and then just change the 2 to a 3. And actually, for the first time, it looked like it was going to figure that out for me. 4, and finally, yep, 5. That's what I wanted. Perfect. So that is all of these values, meaning that as I change this, that's cool. I can get all these different marks popping up. Now, the purpose of this particular sheet was all about making a little chart. So I'm just going to knock that out right now. I'm going to highlight that, hit that, and now I have a chart. I'm not even going to worry about what kind of chart. Here, I'll go pi. Or actually, for this, let's leave it alone. We'll just go with a basic bar chart. So that stuff's all done. That means that if I was providing this, say, to staff and we were summarizing some information maybe, any staff member could come and click that cell and just choose the kid that they want to see. But I don't want them messing with anything here. So this gets into today's lesson about protecting stuff. I have a couple ways I could go about this. When I share this particular file, I could certainly share it with, who am I going to go with? I'll go with Christine today. Say I was going to make her an editor. That would be fine. She'd, in theory, be allowed to edit anything that's on that particular sheet. Just anything and everything. Any of the tabs in this file, everything's available to her at that point. If I go viewer, of course, that locks down any editing at all, and you can't really do anything. Now, the commenting thing is a bit weird with spreadsheets because you can still mess around and you can't really add comments like you would comment on a document. So it's like a weird middle ground that doesn't really let you do as much as you might like. So for her to make changes and do things here, like use that drop-down list that I mentioned, I'd have to at least make her an editor. And if this was a file that I was providing, let me just cancel that. If I was providing this in, say, a shared drive, if I was in a school and all of my staff had access to a shared drive, then I could drop the file in there, and in that case, everybody has full editing access again. I don't really even get a say in that. So, in order to combat that, what we're going to do is I don't want to come to marks here, this particular sheet, and say protect the sheet. If I do that and just say this has, I don't know, this has marks on it, whatever name I give it, because it's the entire sheet here that's being protected. Unfortunately, that means that they would not be able to click my little drop-down list and see anything changing. They'd still be locked out. I can say accept certain cells, so that's an option. I could say, you know what, except for G2. That would work. Then I can say set permissions, and I get to restrict who's able to edit everything else. I can say just myself, or when I hit this drop down, typically what it's going to show you is all the names of all the people that currently have like editing access on this particular file. So you can choose which ones get to edit your protected cells and which ones don't. I can also leave it at just me so that nobody gets to mess with this except myself. Or if I'm being kind, I can say show a warning. And then they do have the ability to go ahead and change things. They just get a warning first, they say okay, and they carry on and they break your sheet. So it's up to you. I can go restrict only, myself, done. And it means if anybody else were to open this now, the only cell that they could manipulate would be this one. So that would lock down absolutely everything. But let's say, I'm going to trash this now. I'm going to go there and just, let's see, delete. There's a little trash can, remove it completely. Okay, because maybe, let's get these guys out of the way for a sec. Maybe I need staff to enter some more data here. Maybe I'm going to include, let's see, test 5 and test 6. There we go. And I need staff to enter the data for these last 2 tests maybe. So if that's the case, then I can't lock down the whole sheet. I need them to edit things, but I don't want them to break this. So let me go ahead and just drag this out. We'll pretend that those are going to show up too. And then here, I'm going to grab that and drag it over, which again, it's not going to work. Yeah, I knew that would break it. I'm going to go copy and then paste. Ooh. Okay, now I'm just breaking things. I'm going to copy that and go to the next one. I'll get this set up as if I was going to actually do this here. So I'm going to get it ready for 5 and 6. So I'm going to say, you know what, that has to actually go out a little farther to, well, in this case, F. And I could say 6, because now there's a 6th row there. And then finally, click into there and paste. And then I'm going to pump that out to G, meaning I need index 7, and we're good. Okay, so now if there was marks here, who am I on? Let me go to Benjamin Grimm just to keep this simple. There we go. So if there was a 1 there, it would show up right there. So I've manipulated it to accommodate for those upcoming 2 columns. So this has to remain editable. But this, I don't want people to edit. I need this to stay exactly where it is. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and highlight all of these cells right here because I don't want them changing my titles either. And now I say add a sheet or range because I've already got my protected stuff turned on. So let me just get rid of that and we'll pretend. I can either go to the data tab and I can say protect sheets and ranges, and that will pop up that same panel that I just closed, but it will select all the cells that I already have grabbed because it understands what I'm trying to do. So if I were to just click that right now, you can see it's already grabbed the cells that I've highlighted. It understands what's going on, and I could say I'm going to set the permissions for that little bit of range, or just to show you the other way, highlight all those cells, right click anywhere on them, and when I come down to view more cell actions, I have protect the range as one of my choices here. So I can click on that guy, and I could say this is a, chart formula, sort of. It's data for the chart. And set permissions again. So once again, I can set a warning. If I want to do that, I'll do that now and then say done. Or I can just make it completely inaccessible to everybody but me. So with that done, I can now go ahead and say, you know what, this is set up to edit with warnings. If somebody came over here and tried to type something like, hi, enter, they get, you are trying to edit part of this sheet that shouldn't be changed accidentally. So hopefully people stop long enough to say, oh, I shouldn't change that now. And they leave it alone. If you know what you're up to and you plan to edit it anyway, you could even say don't show this again because it's going to pop up over and over and over and over again for you. But I'll say okay right now. It allows me to do that. If instead I had typed in here and that popped up and I said, oops, I guess I don't want to do that, cancel, then it will undo whatever I just did. It won't actually let me make the change. So you kind of have to decide for yourself, depending on the situation, do I want to show a warning and then allow people to potentially wreck stuff, or do I want to restrict that so that only myself or other people that I've checked off on my list are actually able to make those changes? But it allows you to protect just those particular cells and still allow manipulation of other things that happen to be on your page here. And that is just those cells. So any other sheets you might have down here available, those are still going to be things that people can manipulate. They just can't mess with this. Now, if I knew, as we said before, that I didn't want them touching anything on my sheet here, I can click there and I'd be able to say protect the sheet, and it would just lock down absolutely everything on the whole sheet. That'll happen certainly if maybe I had all of my data on one sheet and then I had created a new sheet to do all of my little like formula calculations and stuff here. I could allow people to maybe mess with the marks if they needed to update marks or something, and then completely lock down this stuff and they wouldn't be able to mess around with it at all. There's just a variety of different ways you can sort of choose to split things up and lock them down. But point being, you have all those choices. You can go ahead and decide what's going to be editable and what's not, and exactly who can edit it and who can't. So the fact that sharing and means that you're going to have to pick editor in most cases with a spreadsheet if you want them to be able to manipulate anything. You got to make them in an editor, or like I said, in shared drives, you're going to have to go ahead and allow them to edit as well. This way, you're able to give them that editing access while still preventing them from actually breaking the formulas and the functions and things that you've built on the sheet that are actually there for their benefit, probably. So enjoy messing around with your own protections, and you can certainly come to the Tech Talk page, and like I said, down on August 3rd, you can go ahead and copy this sheet, and I'll end up grabbing this and providing it again up at the top there when I publish today's episode. So hopefully that was helpful and quick enough for you to get something out of that and still see everything that's going on. And you'll be able to go ahead and check out all of this on the Tech Talk page in the future, and of course come to future sessions and ask questions and check those out as well. So we'll see you next time.